Hi, my name is Haley, and this is Moon Brews. Hello everyone, welcome back to Moon Brews. Today we are deep diving into nightmares on the Haunted Happy Hour episode, and I have Joey tagging along for discussion as we dissect this topic together.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello. But before we get too far, I do have a book recommendation perfect for this time of year. It's called The Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. It's about a group of travelers who end up getting lost in a huge snowstorm in the Rocky Mountains, and they're left there to survive not only the elements, but also surviving each other. It's a thriller, it's gory, it's gross. I mean, there's ripped out teeth involved. It's spooky. It's filled with a ton of plot twist. But it's so good, and if you want to get lost in the Rockies, definitely read that book. It's perfect because it's wintertime now. It's a winter thriller. That's the last book I read.
Just in case you were planning on getting lost in the Rockies, read this book first so you know.
I mean, it'll prepare you.
Of course.
Yes, it's great. But without further ado, let's move the planchette to the main part of the story and get this haunted happy hour started. Oh yeah, that ASMR. We would have had 2 cracks, but Joey opened his can before.
Yeah.
For the second happy hour in a row.
I got a little excited.
He's already drinking before me. I said you couldn't wait 2 minutes. So we're going to break this up into a few parts. Basically, we're going to start talking about nightmares and what they are and what we think they are. And then tell a few nightmare tales from our listeners, myself, and some freaky ass stories I found on the internet. And Joey, if you have any screwed up dreams, please be my guest and tell us a few of yours as well.
I will.
Okay. So let's just get this started. What are nightmares? So doing a quick search, they're frightening dreams that cause strong feelings of fear, anxiety, and distress. And let me tell you, I believe I'm the queen of nightmares. I have had the most brutal nightmares ever. When I used to live in the log cabin, I would have nightmares almost on a daily basis. I'm going to get into these later, but they were so violent that I wouldn't just have fear or anxiety. I'd wake up with bloody noses, scratches on my body, and bruises from like me causing physical harm to myself once I had these dreams.
That's terrifying.
It's terrible. I mean, that was like a childhood thing. Like, I don't do it now as an adult, thank God, because if I woke up...
Thank God, I'd be waking up with all that shit, plus more, probably.
But it was like solely a childhood thing. I used to be so scared of having nightmares because I would wake up physically hurt, and it was never like, oh, don't be scared of your dream because it's just a dream. Like, your nightmare can't hurt you, which is just wrong. I would wake up fighting, I would be in a dream, like fighting a beast of an animal, and then my nose would be bleeding. Like, it didn't happen every single time, but it would happen. Literally. It was insane. The historical meaning of nightmares is derived from the Old English term incubus, or an evil spirit believed to sit on the sleeper's chest, causing suffocation and bad dreams. Which I concur, because I find it hard to believe that my mind came up with half of the nightmares that I experienced. I went down this short rabbit hole after looking up what nightmares are, and there was a whole internet discussion on whether or not dreams were real. Some people were saying dreams and nightmares are not real, 1, because you're asleep, and 2, because it's your imagination. I disagree with that.
It's very much... The whole thought of what they are is extremely unsettling, because a lot of the time when you have a nightmare, some people will believe that, you have to have, seen this. Your mind doesn't just make things up.
Yeah, like, people say that you can't, like, make an image up from your mind for the first time.
Yeah, and especially when you're not consciously doing it. It's everything that resides in your mind is stuff that you've seen, etc. But you have a nightmare, you have some dreams where you're seeing things that you've never seen before. You've never visually seen them. So
how are they occurring?
Where is this thought, this memory, this idea? Where is it coming from, and what is causing it to occur? To pop up in your mind?
What I don't understand is why they think it's fake or not real. Because how could something, like for my case, how could a dream or a nightmare not be real if I have a physical reaction to it? I mean, it was real in my brain and a physical reaction resulted from it. How could a dream not be real?
Even like taking that idea and sticking with it, even if it wasn't real, where did it come from?
I know, it still exists. It doesn't matter if something exists in your subconscious or not. It doesn't make it not real. It's like with prayer. Like people are like, you should pray. Well, praying usually occurs subconsciously, right? It doesn't make it not real that you're praying because it's happening in your subconscious if you're praying inside your head, right?
Yeah.
I believe if you give something enough power and energy and thought, you make it real. You then make it a reality. It's like when people tell you to like smile and laugh, even though you're not feeling up for it, like forcing yourself to smile and laugh, because let's say you're not in a great mood and you force yourself to smile. People are like, change your brain, change the way outlook, you think. Yeah, your outlook. And once you do, your body does release the chemicals associated with the feelings of pleasure and happiness. Therefore, you're now feeling better. So you created that reality.
But it wasn't real to begin with.
But it wasn't real to begin with, right?
So it's like these dreams, it's just like you're a kid imagining things. They're not like a physical substance.
Physically exist,
but you're making it exist by just very much the intention of thinking about it.
Yeah. And I think it's the same with fictional characters. I don't know if you've heard this before, but it's like there are some fictional characters that you only read about and you only think about. So like, let's say like characters from that ACOTAR book that I read. They only exist on paper and in your brain. There's not like a physical human being of this person, right? They never existed. There's no physical matter of that person. There's no physical body, but they're still real because they live in your subconscious.
Well, and it's the exact same way of like, you read this book and you learn about these characters, and then you go to somebody in a book club or someone else that's read that, and you can talk about this character, this person, and they know exactly who you're talking about.
Like it's a real person.
So it's therefore
exactly.
Yes, the idea was made up, but based on the knowledge and the information given, it has become a real character.
Exactly.
And you know it's real because I can go to you and talk about this and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly. Or any other person. So clearly there's some resemblance of like, this is a real thing. If you're able to go and talk to somebody about something, you can't sit there and talk to somebody and then be like, it's not real.
Mm-hmm. So there was just a whole discussion that I saw about how dreams weren't real, and I couldn't disagree more with that. I mean, they're very much... that just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think dreams are any different than you thinking of a fictional character or talking about somebody in a book, so on and so forth.
And one last thing I'll say to it is these dreams, the ideas, what happens, it has to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't
like
just...
you're creating energy of it.
Exactly. Like, it isn't just... I don't believe our brains have the ability while we're sleeping, there's no brain or little brain function occurring where your brain just makes up these scenarios, these situations. They come from somewhere.
Yeah. Why do you think we have nightmares? So fear, anxiety, and stress. I think those are like the main reasons why we have nightmares. Mm-hmm. They're probably the top reasons for like the normal people. And there is science that backs this up. When people are dealing with like stress and anxiety and fear, they are experiencing nightmares. But do you think there's a spiritual aspect to nightmares as well? Do you think ghosts and spirits can bleed into your minds easier when you're in like the REM stage of sleep? Right?
Yeah.
So if we're not talking about fear, anxiety, and stress, we're talking about you're in a state, like for example, when you're meditating or you're trying to get to a certain brain state, whether that's beta state, alpha state, you are opening yourself up and opening your brain waves to different things. Whether that's you're doing meditation just for like clearing your mind and stuff, you're still doing that. And I still believe there is an aspect to like spiritual communication when your brain is in that state. When you are sleeping, is your brain in a state where a spirit can mess with it? It's easier to mess with you and them infiltrate that dream, and that infiltration results into a nightmare.
Yeah, you know what that honestly instantly makes my mind go to is Stranger Things.
I know.
With
There's so many that we can't say anything that we
I
can't
won't, no
spoil it for
spoilers,
anybody.
no spoilers.
I thought about Stranger
But it
Things this
just
whole
makes me
time.
think of like Eleven's able to use her power, but she's able to take it to that next level when she's in
Her altered state of consciousness.
yeah, but when she's in the like the deprivation tank, she's able to
Yes,
she's
that's
able to
exactly it.
hit that next level,
Yes,
which
Joey.
makes her more powerful.
Yes.
In the same resemblance of when you're in your sleep and you hit that REM state,
Yes.
you
That's
are
what I'm saying.
more susceptible or more open to
Yes. Exactly. So it's like the monsters that you see in the closet aren't just in your dream, but they may be a reflection of what's happening in your room at that time while you're asleep and your eyes are closed.
That's a scary thought.
It's a very scary thought. But a less scary thought, can loved ones then send us a message while we're in that stage of sleep into our dreams as well? Which I very much believe as well, because people think that there is a spiritual aspect when it comes to like loved ones sending you messages when you're sleeping in your dreams and stuff. How is that any different with nightmares? If there is a darker thing or a darker energy that wants to make you have a bad dream, I don't see how that's any different than a loved one giving you a message.
Yeah, see, I think of it more in like a physical aspect of like if someone was in REM sleep and you were next to them saying like, oh, love you, whatever, whatnot, and then they would be able to, I guess, infiltrate that mind at that given time. Now with you, that wouldn't be possible because even when you're in REM sleep, if I drop a penny on the floor, you'll wake up.
Oh.
So I definitely won't be able to
Some
deliver
nights
you
I
any
am like a
messages. But some nights, yes.
So I believe nightmares are a mix, and it definitely depends on the day. I would say most of my nightmares stem from anxiety and stress, but I also believe some of the darkest nightmares I've had stem from some sort of spiritual interjection occurring when I sleep. And that goes back on what you said is some of the things that I've seen in my nightmares, I don't ever think I've seen that. I don't think I've ever watched a movie like that, but it was so violent and so brutal or so horrifying. My brain made that up, but I have a hard time believing that my brain made it up and that it might have been some sort of interjection of energy or spirits while I was sleeping. Like when you have, for example, a nightmare of a tall, dark figure walking down your hallway, you awaken startled, right? That was your nightmare. But then you hear a creak of the floor in the hallway in which you have just dreamt of this entity. Have you ever had something like that before?
I personally have not.
I feel like I have. Where you dream of something horrifying, you're startled and awoken, and then you hear a fucking noise come from that area.
Is like
and it's like, well, was
evidence.
that the infiltration? And my brain was picking that up, subconsciously creating that image in my mind, and there is something walking down the hallway.
Well, and it potentially isn't creating that image in your mind as much as like that was what you were receiving from, like that could have been what was occurring, like hence when you woke up you heard the creak. Well, it's like now obviously you don't see it because you're not in that open state of mind as you were when you were sleeping.
You think when you're sleeping your brain could make an image of what may be infiltrating your space,
the energies that are around you.
That is so interesting and even scarier.
And even scarier, yes, very much.
I also believe the space you surround yourself in and the energy you give off directly depend on what type of night you're going to have. Therefore, making dreams and nightmares 100% real because they're dependent on what you're doing in your physical space, right?
No, 100%. I mean, and it goes back to the initial thought of, what causes nightmares and about what you give off. If you're very stressed out, you're very negative, down.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, you're going to get, there's a good chance that you'll get nightmares.
100%.
Or at least you're more susceptible to nightmares because the energy around you is negative.
Mm-hmm. And you're creating that negative energy,
yes.
Right?
And it's very much just like, you can't argue that there isn't a correlation, which then implies that it's a real thing. Because
exactly.
if it wasn't a real thing, you could be the happiest go luckiest person, nothing's wrong.
Exactly.
You don't typically have nightmares when that is the case. So if there is a not a coincidence, but if there is
like a correlation,
yes. If there is a correlation between your mood, etc., that right there proves that it is a real thing.
I agree completely. So let's talk about reoccurring nightmares and dreams. So I know a few popular ones that people experience, like a reoccurring dream, or like their teeth falling out. Have you ever had one of those dreams?
No.
You're so lucky.
Yeah, I will say, spoiler, I don't, I don't have many dreams or nightmares, or rather, at least I don't recall them.
I think you have a hard time recalling them.
That's quite possible. I obviously, like I say, I've never had a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share, but like that I can say I can remember is very few. I will only have one nightmare probably to share in this.
Wild.
But
anyways, teeth falling out is a big one. Walking out of the house without clothes on. I used to do that all the time in high school. Not in reality. In my dream.
You used to dream about it, of course.
In my dream, I would be walking out of the house without clothes on. Like, I know other people have experienced that before. And, like, people have reoccurring dreams of, like, a big natural disaster, like world-ending stuff. That's another big one. Why do we think we experience reoccurring nightmares? I think it might be because there's, like, a hidden message in that one dream, and you're not receiving it. You're not understanding it. Maybe this is why you don't have reoccurring dreams, because you are just unlocking everything that you're supposed to know in every single dream. Is there a life lesson to be learned within these dreams?
So, there actually was a movie, probably came out in like mid 2000s.
Okay.
Maybe 2010.
I might have not seen it then.
It's called, I believe, like Tomorrowland or something.
Oh, wait, is this the one with the girl who runs through the buildings, like the windows? She's had black hair.
No.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
I could be wrong, but basically, quick summary, cliff note of the movie is super genius kid, science fair guru, gets this like token to join this society of like just insanely intellectual people that are in like a different universe, we'll say.
Yeah.
Basically, gets through the whole movie, and there's a timer that's the world, doomsday. Mm-hmm. The world's going to end. And how basically that came across was the computer in the movie was delivering these images of said doomsday through on a certain radio frequency that people would dream about. So
did they not know they were receiving the message?
No, they didn't realize that that's where it was coming from. Okay. So they were seeing this vision in a dream of doomsday.
Oh my god!
As from this radio frequency, but what it was causing is like it was putting that thought into their mind through the dream, and that is what actually ended up was the cause of this doomsday, because that message was being sent out, so it was influencing them. Mm-hmm. So it's almost as though like how it relates to this obviously is like depending on what you see in your dreams, in your nightmares, how that influences you and your thought process. Because in that movie, if that image was never, the whole thing was the computer was sabotaging to cause a doomsday by giving off this message, this image of doomsday. But if that image was never given off, then doomsday would have actually never occurred. Yes. Yeah. So, but bringing it back to this is like the images and the pictures, the things you experience in your dreams / nightmares, how does that affect your daily life in the sense of, does it affect your decisions that you make?
Oh yeah.
Does seeing a nightmare maybe not cause something of similar thing to occur because now your mind is on that? Like, for example, extremely far-fetched example, but like somebody you just tripping, you're just walking and you see your nightmare is you tripping and falling off something tragic, but in your everyday life you would never have thought or have been so precautious about tripping, fearful of that. So because you've seen this nightmare, you're now so much more
aware and acting differently than what you do in the physical realm.
Yes. Yeah. And which again, that may cause you to trip because that's just what you're thinking about or not. But if that thought was never into your mind, would you have just continued on?
So maybe there are certain thoughts that you have that make you feel like not make you feel like that, make you have reoccurring dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's some that stick with you. Like there had been some that's stuck with me forever. And I never understood why. It might have been the location in which I was at, because once I moved that location, I never had that dream again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can either be location based, it can be, I know Sue talks about this all the time, like subliminal messages or hidden messages in music. And like you said, with the radio frequency, there could be, not saying that this is happening, this is all alleged, but let's say there's music stars out there making music that have these certain messages in them that are all subconscious, and then we go to bed or we're waking up and we're all thinking about Sabrina Carpenter, right?
That's not even like that's like 100%
happening.
Whether you're conspiracy or not, like
Yeah.
there are plenty of things like across the world that are small little things or hidden
messages
in little messages, so that it subconsciously makes you think a certain way. I mean, like you said, with singers doing things to make you think of maybe their ways politically, or whatever the case may be.
That is true.
But it's very much how your dreams and how your nightmares can affect the outcome of what you do when you're not sleeping and dreaming, and how those reoccurring dreams have an effect on your outside life.
Oh yeah, because some of these reoccurring dreams have like scarred me for like ever. I also think there might be another reason behind reoccurring dreams from the spiritual aspect. Is it a spirit trying to communicate with you? Are they sending you this message? Whether you believe in spirits or God or whoever you believe in, is God sending you a message in your dream? Reoccurring. It doesn't mean it has to be a nightmare, but is it a reoccurring dream that he's trying to give you a message and you haven't listened to the message yet? Or you are getting messages from these angels or guardian angels, and there's angel numbers that you keep missing on your alarm clock, but you keep waking up in this dream and there's a monster in your closet, but you keep missing the 444 on your alarm clock, right? So I also think there's like that aspect to it. But let's get into our first nightmare story, and this one is by yours truly.
Every episode is a paranormal road trip where the GPS stopped working 5 minutes in.
If it bumps in the night or lurks in your basement, we probably already talked about it.
We're best friends, lifelong weirdos, and your guides through the haunted, the spooky, and the just plain cursed.
From cryptids to cursed objects, haunted history to haunted hairbrushes.
And probably a haunted dollar, too, along the way.
This is Not My Ghost, Not My Problem. Subscribe now.
Regret it later.
Blame the ghost.
So this is the one that haunted me forever. So I used to live in a log cabin, my childhood home. The house was built from scratch, like straight up Lincoln logs were put together to make this house. So there shouldn't have been any sort of residual energy from a previous owner or a reason why I had such weird, dark, and scary nightmares while growing up in this house. I have one reoccurring dream in that house that stands out the most to me. It would happen weekly, sometimes even multiple times a week. The dream would typically start by me walking up the stairs alone to my bedroom, which was located on the second floor. The house was a loft, so once you walked up the stairs, there was an open room to the right, and you can look down and see everyone sitting down in the living room. So in this dream, I'm walking up the staircase and I turn left towards my bedroom. Once I get into the bedroom, all the lights are on and everything seems normal. The bed is made perfectly. As soon as I enter the room, something flips the covers of the bed as they lie in it, sit straight up, turn their head to stare at me with black eyes, mouth open wider than what would be capable of a human being, and would start screaming bloody murder while making direct eye contact with me. A scream that I can still hear today. It was loud, deafening, and terrifying. This thing would rush out from under the covers and start charging at me. At this point, I had this dream a million times and it would always be the same. I would turn around, rush down the flight of stairs as quickly as possible, basically floating down the stairs. And once I got to the bottom, the creature, the thing, whatever it was in my room, would jump from the top of the staircase through the loft and land in front of me in the living room. That dream haunted me for decades.
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying. It would be like your arms up, like the thing would be laying in bed, like with its arms up underneath the bed, so you couldn't really tell that there was something underneath it, and it would flip it down and be like, ah!
Oh my god.
Every time. I mean, I have goosebumps now. It was You want to tell me why I had that reoccurring dream over and over again? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And the only time that would stop was after I moved out of the house. I couldn't, it was kind of like, it was one of those dreams that like you couldn't really change. Like I knew it was happening, right? So you would think like, why'd you keep walking up the steps?
Yeah.
Why didn't you turn around and go down the couch? It was one of those things where it felt pre-programmed, and that's what you did in this dream. You always walked up. You were a little fearful of turning the corner into your room. You weren't sure exactly what was going to happen, but you felt fear.
Yeah.
I remember feeling fear, but I could never remember or never realize that I could stop this dream and just walk back down the steps. So it was like I was forced to have this reoccurring dream for literally years.
Well, I know like your house was obviously built from scratch, and so there's no previous owners, but that doesn't also cross out the where your house was built.
The land.
Yes.
The land. I know. I'm going to have to do an episode on the land where the log cabin is. Gravy is here if you hear her licking Joey's face right now. So let's read and interpret our first listener submission from It Came From the Maritimes podcast. So go follow their podcast if you haven't already. But this is their submission about their nightmare experience. I've been prone to nightmares since childhood, and even as an adult. I've had nightly vivid dreams, and I've been told I often sleep talk. When I was little, I had a reoccurring dream that goblins were trying to kidnap my younger brother. I watched the movie Labyrinth way too young, and the puppets terrified me at the time. These nightmares continued for years until one night when I was having the dream. I started screaming and thrashing around in my bed. My mom tried to wake me, but I jumped out of her arms and ended up going to the hospital for stitches after hitting my head on a nearby bookshelf. Luckily, the goblin dream stopped after the incident. Around the same time, this nightmare started when I was 5 years old, and again in university. I would experience sleep paralysis if I slept on my back. I would consistently wake up at 4 a.m. and see a tall shadow standing at the end of my bed. I'm sure it was there for only a few seconds, but at the time it'd feel like I was immobile for hours. The attic hatch was in my childhood bedroom. Yikes. That's not good. And the shadow would eventually crawl up the wall and into the attic. Needless to say, I did not sleep well, wondering what was overhead. As an adult, I still can't sleep through the night if I stay in my childhood home and find myself unable to fall asleep unless I'm on my side.
That's incredibly interesting.
Shadow? But that's what's scary, is like, that's the same thing we were talking about, is are you having dreams of what's happening in your room right now? You're asleep and you're seeing this black shadow crawl up the wall into the attic, but you're seeing your room.
Yeah. I don't even...
I want to backtrack to the goblin dream really quick. I think that dream is significant that it stopped after she had been physically hurt. She kept having that dream, got hurt, and then it had stopped. Without being super dark, but was that like the inevitable goal? Was for her to get injured in some sort of way?
Yeah.
Right? Was that the only way to end that reoccurring dream? Was that the answer to that dream? Because then all of a sudden it stopped. It was like, oh, the goblin's goal in that dream was, we want to inflict some sort of harm on her. And we did our job, and that was it.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that only when you sleep on your back.
That too. There has to be a study on that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's Mom and Allie can't sleep on their back either. Because they experience either nightmares or they can't fall asleep.
Interesting.
Right?
So
maybe you're unlocking a different part of your brain.
Like the correlation just between sleeping on your back versus sleeping on your side. And
a
what
lot
occurs.
of people, it's almost a universal experience too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people experience that. Our next one is from Do You Dare podcast. Don't know if it's worth anything, but as a kid, I used to have a reoccurring nightmare where my house would burn down and half the time take my family with as I watched. Sometimes the end would alternate with us all staying trapped, making it out without me. Every once in a while, we'd all make it out without certain sentimental objects, and the whole house would burn to the floor as we sat and watched. That's pretty much the extent of what would happen, but as a kid, it absolutely terrified me, especially the fact that I never knew how it would play out. So she's having a reoccurring dream, but with a slightly different element to the end, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
It's a plot that's forever changing.
I genuinely wonder if the outcome had anything to do with the energy that she was giving off.
Oh my God. Like
if
before she fell asleep.
Yeah, like if she was like in having like she had a great day, like, oh, and this time,
she got out,
it's
but
still a
only
terrifying
lost.
dream,
Yeah.
but she got out. Or if, negative things were
Interesting.
occurring, if she was bad or whatnot, like, oh, in this one, your family gets left behind or you get left behind, like, you suffer the consequences per se.
Wow. Good job, Joey.
It's definitely interesting for one like that to be, for it to be reoccurring,
But slightly different.
It's
like keeping you on your toes.
It just makes you think that, like, well, if you're having the same dream and different outcomes, something has to change, has to have changed per all of these instances. It's not typical. I mean, again, not an expert, but it's not typical for you to have the same dream, but like, oh, this time you have a happier ending, and this time obviously
Exactly.
overall,
usually they're
still,
like completely different dreams.
Yeah, and like overall, still it's a sad dream. You like you said, you lost valuables and you lost things that are very sentimental to you. So overall, but the difference in this time I was left behind in the fire, and this time we all got together, or this time we all died in the fire.
Yeah.
That's dark.
It is dark.
And it makes you wonder what's the reasoning behind that.
Do You Dare podcast also says, I also had this other dream that was like walking around an alternate reality. Everything seemed so familiar at first, until I start to pick up on things like the fact the streets were flipped. Shops that were on the left side were now on the right, and vice versa. The colors of things were just all off. The people walking around also seemed off, even the atmosphere, but it was all just only slightly, so at first glance you wouldn't even notice it. Everything seemed sort of backwards, and it was weirdly quiet considering I was walking around an area of town I already knew incredibly well. I grew up here my entire life. But in that dream, I ran into a friend of mine who was wearing the same thing he had been the last time I saw him. Except again, everything was flipped. The colors, where the logo sat on his t-shirt, and the position of the cap on his head. And when I approached, he actually seemed in good spirits. But then I started to ask about why everything in the dream seemed off, including him. And from what I remember, he seemed completely oblivious to the changes. He laughed it off and said he didn't see anything wrong, and then his voice shifted into something stern, which was odd in itself, as he was usually a pretty chill guy. Then he told me, "You can't talk about that here," and then I woke up. I'm almost certain I've returned to the same dream a couple of times since, but in different locations. However, like before, every time I start to notice things that are slightly off, the random people in my dreams stare at me and are not happy with it. I've heard of this happening before. I've heard of people challenging people in their dreams, and the persons in the dreams becoming extremely enraged. Like, you don't get an answer to your question, and the dream just suddenly ends. Like, she's noticing these little things, and he's like, you shouldn't be asking those questions.
Yeah, it almost makes me, like, a whole nother tangent of what's possible.
This freaks me out.
But it almost seems as though it's, like, an alternate reality type
and, like,
vibe, and, like,
I
an
have full
alternate
body
dimension.
chills.
Whereas in, like, everything's the same, but it's slightly different.
Ew.
And it's the same thing. Again, relating back to
hate
Stranger
this.
Things, like, you go to the Upside Down, and it's, like, it's the same.
But slightly different. Yeah.
And that's, in science, it's, like, genuinely it's a real topic of, like, an alternate timeline, alternate dimension.
Yeah.
Where a lot of things are very similar, but there are minute differences.
Yeah.
And if they're aware of the situation that they're in, then that explains why they're like, can't talk about that here.
Yeah, and that's why they get mad.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you're woken up because you're, like, putting these pieces
you're
together.
kicked out of that.
Yes.
Of that
Ew.
dimension, that timeline, because it's like you tapped into it, and then you lived in it, you're fine, and then you stepped over the line, and they're like, hey,
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're not supposed to know what's actually happening in that dream. It's like you're breaking the boundaries of your subconsciousness.
Yes.
I've heard to get this to happen in your dreams, which I'm so scared of doing, and I've heard Elena from Morbid talk about this a lot. If you are in a dream state and you start lucid dreaming, so you understand that you're dreaming and you're in control of your dreams, that's what lucid dreaming means. You're in your dream, you realize you're dreaming, and you see somebody standing in the corner. You go up to them and you ask them, hey, what time is it? This has elicited the same reaction as the dream that I just read to you. People are having universal experiences because everyone's challenging them with, what time is it? And the dream immediately ends, and the people that they ask in the dream become extremely irate. And there's no answer, and the dream just ends and you wake up. And that to me is so scary.
That's interesting.
And I hate when people have universal experiences asking the same question. And like, why are these dream people getting mad? And I've never asked what time it was. It's like you're bringing something from our reality into that subconsciousness, but they know as soon as you ask what time it is, like that doesn't exist there. There's no time in your dream state. Yeah. Therefore, they know you're an outsider and something's going on there. And it scares the shit out of me. Full body. Please ask what time it is, because I don't think I'm brave enough to do it.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think I've ever actually... I don't think...
You've never seen another person in a dream, ever?
Well, no, I've never had a lucid dream. Because I don't think I get into...
I'm so sorry for you, because I love flying around the earth sometimes. I haven't done that in a long time, though.
I don't think I've ever been in so deep into a dream that, like, I have realized that it's a dream, per se.
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, most of the dreams that I get into are, like, right at that point, right before I'm about to get up. So
so you do dream right before you're about to get up.
Yeah, I at least I feel like I do.
Yeah, because you say that you're like, I just dreamed of something.
Yeah, like very much like when I'm in that like not half awake, but like almost awake state is when I typically can remember the dreams that I'm in. So I'm just not in deep enough one where it's like I feel like I have control over it. It's just I want to see the end of this dream, and then boom, I wake up.
Yeah. I used to have a technique when I was dreaming, is I would shake my head so hard while I was dreaming. I would be like in the dream and be like, shake your head. And I would shake my head so hard. And do you know when you shake your head, you can like feel it?
Yeah.
Obviously. Like there was no sense of feeling like that in a dream. Like it wasn't that serious. So as soon as I did that, I knew I was like, you're freaking dreaming. And then that's when my lucid dreaming would start. That was like my technique to be like, am I dreaming or am I not dreaming? So I do have a story from a deleted Reddit user's account about a dream that they had. When I was really young, 10 or younger, I used to have this dream where I'd be in my half-sister's father's house at night. It was a little double-wide trailer. Only in the dream, it was conveniently placed on a plateau with a cliff right outside the front door. The drop was several hundred feet and there was no other way out of the house. Every time I'd go into the bedroom at the end of the hall to get the phone and I would call for help. But I never made it to the phone because as soon as I'd reach for the light switch, this big human skeleton would lash out at me from the darkness. It would chase me down the hall and I'd wake up right as it wrapped its bony fingers around the collar of my shirt. I had this dream roughly once a week for months. Well, one night, when I was in the middle of this nightmare, running down the hall from this bony bastard, when I noticed a baseball bat on the floor. I yanked it up and wailed it on him until he was just a pile of bones. The jaw was still snapping at me from the floor as the bones rattled around trying to reassemble its body. I proceeded to scoop up the bones and throw them out the front door off of the cliff. I kicked out the skull because I didn't want it to bite me. I never had that nightmare again after that. This is the perfect example of how this person found the one hidden key or clue in his dream and stopped his reoccurring dream from happening. He found the baseball bat. He kept having this dream over and over and over again. And it would end the same way until this one time he looked up while he was running down the hallway from the skeleton, saw the baseball bat, and beat the shit out of it. And it ended forever.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you always hear about like confronting your demons.
Yes.
And like the one time, you know, he keeps having this recurring dream and it always happens, same thing every time. And then he's able to, I wonder again, if it has anything to do with his mentality of, like his mentality before he goes to bed, the energy he gave off because...
Brave.
Because he was able to, it's not necessarily that the bat was there every single time in the past,
Ooh.
but it may have been there this time because
of
he's in a more positive spot. So it's like now
So it might not be
it has
ever
awarded him.
within the dream. Sometimes it's prior to the dream as well.
Yes.
I could have really used this conversation a long time ago.
just because of like, you know, oh, you're in a slump and you have this dream a million times, you know, whatnot, and
Yeah.
you start to change things for the better, and then now this time in your dream, what are the odds this time you decided to look and, oh, look, there's a bat. And what are the odds you missed that all the other times that you know
That
have
is
had
true.
this dream, and now it's there, and it's giving you a way out.
It's your
of
way out.
this
That's what I was going to
cycle.
say. It's your way out. And I also, when you...
And you caused this way out
Yeah.
because your
I agree.
energy going to sleep was more positive.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I also remember, like, being super scared growing up and, like, having nightmares and stuff and talking to, like, my mom and everything. And she would, like, tell me to, like... I don't know if confronting is the, like, right word, but, like, be brave and stand up for yourself. And I think that's half the battle too. Like, either one, you're finding your perception of life needs to be different. You are positive and all these other things, like your energy going into it. You have to find the hidden key. Like, what the hell is going on? Is there a hidden message somewhere? Or two, you just stand up and you be brave. Because I remember there was this one thing that used to bother me a lot too. And I stood up for myself and was brave, and it also never happened again. So I think that's another factor in all of these reoccurring dreams. But I wanted to end very soon talking about sleep paralysis, because it definitely falls under the nightmare category for me. So I actually experienced my own sleep paralysis and hallucination earlier this year, and if you want to input because you were involved, you can, but I'll get the story started. So I was falling asleep in my bed one night alone. It was in the early stages of sleep. Soon after I had just fallen asleep, I woke up suddenly. I opened my eyes and saw hundreds of spiders crawling all over the bed sheets, inches away from my face. I was so mortified, I literally fell off the bed. I jumped, I leapt out of the bed. It was so fucking scary. Fell off the bed, because our bed is what, like 4 foot tall?
Yeah, it's like 3-4 feet off.
3-4 feet off the ground. I flipped off of the bed, landed straight onto my knees. Like, my knees broke my fall. Onto the ground. My chest was, my heart was beating out of my chest. I was sweating. I was in a full effing panic. I had like a full adrenaline rush going. I yelled. Joey came running down the hall, checked the bed, and there was nothing. It was the scariest sleep paralysis hallucination thing I've ever experienced. And like, spiders aren't that scary, but like, no, it was pretty scary.
I mean, when they're getting close to crawling on your face,
There were hundreds of them.
Yeah.
There were hundreds of them. So like, what is sleep paralysis? And I did cover this in the Hat Man and Autumn Spells episode, so be sure to listen to that. But basically, the NIH, the National Institute of Health, so the real deal here, actually studied sleep paralysis in human beings. And their conclusion was, they concluded that they were unsure why people saw spiders, demons, or ghosts when they were stuck in a paralysis state. And the article ended there. Because half the time when you have these paralysis episodes, it's nothing positive. You're not seeing the Easter Bunny jump up and down in the corner of your room. You're seeing the Hat Man. You're not seeing butterflies flying through the air. You're seeing spiders crawl all over the place. Why is it only this dark, scary entity or entities impacting you during this state? If you have any nightmares, reoccurring dreams, or clues on how to break them, Joey has a lot. Send your stories to moonbrewspodcast@gmail.com and we may read your